Alrighty, very happy Thursday and welcome to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is May 28th of 2026. I gotta be honest with you, I don't know what just happened with all that static and corruption of my microphone. So I do apologize for that brief encounterment, but we'll just pick up where we left off at. Hey, we're halfway through the week and the weather's turning around. The rain has surpassed us. The weather is blooming. And let's be honest with each other for a moment. The Cincinnati Reds, okay? We got three more games tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday against the Atlanta Braves. And the worst case would scenario is, you know what, we're going to finish off the month of May above 500, which I think gives us ourselves a round of applause, so to speak, right? Reds are playing good baseball. We'll talk about the Reds and Mets as they wrapped up a three-game series yesterday. We'll also talk about dive a lot of football conversations. I want to get you guys ready, so we'll have to bring some of them up. Guys, a couple interesting stories to tell you here. But I wanted to bring in the first conversation of this program today and talk about the MLB Players Association, who finally submitted their first proposal for this year's collective bargaining agreement. As a baseball fan, there is a very good chance that come December 1st, baseball is going to be on a lockdown. There's a very good chance that there will either be a delay or a cancellation of the 2027 season of Major League Baseball. It's a fear as a fan, as someone who sits here and talks sports, and our primary conversations follow under baseball year round. So to think that there are going to be a possibility, a good possibility, that baseball does not start on time next year scares me to death. Baseball is my favorite sport. I grew up on baseball, and that is something that I want to continue talking about. I praise for it. Okay. I don't know what's going on here now. It happens again. I don't know what about the static. What's going on? Hello. Is that better? How about now? No. How about now? Echo. One, two, three. Testing microphone. Yes, that worked. No. 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 All right. I hope that whatever staticking has happened, we'll deal with it. I apologize. Anyways, so it's important that we start these negotiations. It's important that the Players Association and Major League Baseball teams come to some sort of agreement. And yesterday began the actual proposal stage. So I want to break that down with you. You can find it on MajorLeagueBaseball.com. You can find it on uh I don't know what's going on. You can find it on MajorLeagueBaseball.com. You can find it on CBS Sports. So let's get down to what they have presented in the first negotiation. So the Major League Baseball Players Association presented a comprehensive set of economic proposals designed to advance the rights and benefit the players at all levels. Okay. The interim executive director, Bruce Mayer, said in a statement released by the union, he said, "Our goal is to preserve the improve baseball's market system, rewarding competitive on and off the field. Additionally, the players' proposal provides increase of revenue sharing, initially guaranteeing every small market club a minimum of $240 million in revenue every season. This enhanced the revenue sharing includes adding protection to ensure clubs' priority, winning over profiting. Ultimately, our proposal is designed to build upon incredible momentum and popularity of our sport." Okay, we'll start off with that. Here is the most notable proposal in the following to the owners. One is competitive integrity tax against teams that don't spend the minimum amount on their payroll, an increase in the minimum salary from $780,000 to $1.5 million, an increase of the bottom competitive balance tax, more known as the luxury tax threshold, from $244 million to $300 million. All right. What does this mean? So, a competitive tax, integrity tax, basically caps out on a team that doesn't spend money on their players. So if you are, I'm going to throw out the Cincinnati Reds, or if you are the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Miami Marlins, the idea is you're going to get taxed if you do not spend X dollar amount on your payroll for your players, not your staff, not the ballpark, the players. Then they want to raise the minimum salary from $780,000 to $1.5 million. So when you jump into the league and you get the major league salary, the minimum a ball club could pay you would be $1.5 million. They also want to increase the balance tax, which is the luxury tax, from being taxed at $244 million to $300 million, allowing ball clubs to spend more money. Here is some other proposals that were given by player side, which includes an increase sharing of local broadcast revenues among teams, but less sharing of stadium game day revenues, which means most organizations get a lot of their revenue from the television deals that they get on a year-to-year basis. The Dodgers have an exclusive luxury deal on their television broadcasting that players want a cut of. In exchange, they want less of the profits that come from the stadium's revenue. So ticket sales, merchandise sales, concession sales, stuff like that. They're willing to cut at that expense. So if you're in LA, you know that you have every Major League Baseball club wants the best television deal, wants to be able to reach out to as many fans as possible, whether or not they're in the stadium or not. The Dodgers are one of them. They have probably one of the biggest, craziest television deals. But this also opposed to stadiums that don't sell out. Let's face it. Great American Ballpark throughout the course of the season, especially throughout the course of the weekly part of the season, they don't even sell half the tickets. So that fluctuates the shareable amount given to players. Second thing is tens of millions in extra revenue sharing to go to low revenue teams that make the postseason or have a winning record. So here's an incentive. They want revenue sharing to go to the low. So if you're the Dodgers, all kind of automatically associated with going to the playoffs. You take a low revenue team, and I'm just going to use the Reds as an example. They are pretty low on the revenue market. They're winning. They go to the postseason. They have a winning record. They want the Dodgers to share their revenue with the Reds, a portion of it, so that they can help improve on the following season, make it more competitive and equally balanced. They want free agents, the free agency, after 5 years or more in their MLB tenure rather than 6, for players who are at least the age of 30 of age at the time. So if you hit free agency, they want, instead of having a 6-year tenure in the major leagues, they want to cut that down to 5 as long as you hit 30. Expanded of the draft lottery, penalties for teams that neglect the spending revenue sharing payments on the team's payroll. So a lot of ball clubs are taking the revenue and they're putting it towards the stadium. They're putting it towards marketing. They put it anywhere else but the players. Draft picks and other incentives for low revenue clubs active in free agency, elimination of qualifying offers for outgoing free agents, increase of compensation for lower revenue teams losing players to free agency. They want the Red, basically, you'd be saying the Reds will get compensated. They are a low revenue team for losing someone like Ellie De La Cruz because, let's say, they couldn't financially afford the luxury Kyle Tucker contract that they were able to, that the Dodgers were able to give him. How is it fair if the Dodgers have all that money, that money, a number is not an empowerment to them, that you name me any money we want you, we will get you. Where is that equality over teams who can't afford $340 million deals? So this is all just the beginning of the process. We notate this process so we, monitor and understand where the Players Association is wanting to move. Obviously, there are some categories that they propose that are going to be way off than Major League Baseball, what they want, the organizations want. But they start it now. Now, apparently, according to sources, we are supposed to hear about either today, tomorrow, or by this weekend a response. And here's what I'll say to the negotiation process. If there's a chance for the new collective bargaining agreement to be done, I'm that 1% that's very hopeful that it gets done before December 1st. They have to continue on a weekly basis, have these conversations, make these proposals, and make these adjustments. This far, looking at this, I can understand maybe a minimum salary moving up to 900,000, if not $1 million, which would be a win. Major League Baseball Player Association did not put a salary threshold or a salary cap. As a matter of fact, they've increased it. But they said, look, if you're just cheaping out and you're going to have a team constructed under this stuff, then under this X dollar amount, then you should be held responsible for paying competitive integrity tax, which means you'd be enforcing even these low revenue teams and low market teams to spend more money in players. But in the alternative, you're also willing, okay, you're also sitting here willing, saying, look, the wealthy teams are going to give to the unwealthy teams. The free agency could be an incentive that should be easily negotiated. I don't think that that's too much of an issue. But these are some of the factors going into the proposal the Players Association made. And we talked, this is only so young into the season. Fair. But it's to the understanding that if we don't start these conversations now, we don't start somewhere, then we're not going to win. Just trying to adjust these microphones for you so that I don't have this issue. Apologize. All right, let me see if that works at all. I don't like the static. It really bothers me. It does. Truly. So I like the proposal. I think that there's some negotiation, obviously, to be said. We'll see what happens later on to today. But what do you guys think? Where does your proposal for this new CBA agreement begin at? What's reasonable and what's not? Alrighty, the Cincinnati Reds didn't sweep the New York Mets yesterday. They lost 4-2. They did take the series though. Andrew Abbott had a 6 inning outing, giving up 5 hits on 3 runs, walked one batter, struck out 4, and allowed 2 home runs in his outing. Blake Dunn, who's been on fire and possibly replaced TJ Friedel as your everyday center fielder, he went 3 for 6. So, as I mentioned 15 minutes ago, the Cincinnati Reds will finish off the month of May with a 500 record or better. We are headed back to Great American Ballpark. We are about to take on the Atlanta Braves, who are arguably one of the best teams in the National League. And it's going to be a buckle up ride for the Red Legs. I tell you this because the Braves are not an easy team to beat. Doesn't matter. Earlier this week, we talked about the importance of these series and how these series, especially against National League opponents, can come down to the wire. Last year, the Reds playoffs came down to the final game of the season where if it wasn't for the Mets losing, if it wasn't for the Reds beating the Mets both home and away last season, the outcome of the playoffs could have been completely different for the Red Legs. Could not made it in. So this is a similar situation. Comparison to what we just got done facing in New York. The Mets are at the bottom of the NL East, while the Braves are soaring through the top. The only advantage that we have against the Braves this weekend is that the fact is at Great American Ballpark. If you ask me today, which team or can we go toe to toe with the Atlanta Braves, I'm hesitant. Based off of what I've seen throughout the year thus far, or nonetheless this past month, I feel like we have a fight. I feel like our starting pitching just started getting back to the consistency and to the comfortable position of going 5, 6 solid innings and outing, which is much appreciated. Finally there after 2 months of baseball. And I guess the reason why it's such a big entity for the Reds and why having these inconsistent moments for the Reds can draw out further is because the Reds are not the Dodgers, they're not the Braves. They can't just pick it up and have this masculine run anytime throughout the season. Milwaukee got off to a slow start. They quickly turned things around in the month of May, and now they're running the division. Just for the narrative purpose, Milwaukee was sitting fourth to fifth place in the NL Central come May 1st. Now we're sitting here on May 28th, and they're running the division and separating themselves quite nicely amongst the rest of the division. So you're not worried about Milwaukee. You don't hit the panic button when the Dodgers aren't playing their best baseball because they know what it takes, and they play the entire season. For the Reds, it's crucial that not only we get off to a good start, but we limit the failures, the droughts that we have. And because our recent drought is still 2-3 weeks past us, we sit on this. I like to sit here and say we're beyond the drought. Gino Suarez is back in the lineup. We won a couple of series. We feel pretty good about ourselves. We're pounding our chest, and we're back at the same team that we were a month ago. I like to argue that, but the reality is that a series like this can define confidence or take it away just as quickly. So winning games that we need to win, great. We took the series in New York, and I think that we have a chance of taking the series at home against Atlanta. I sure hope so, because I wouldn't want to start another drought. We're going to Busch Stadium next weekend, by the way. Yeah, we got the Braves, and we got the Royals at home, and we're going out to St. Louis next week. Yesterday, talked about an article that with Jeff Brantley mentioning, and actually took headwaves across Major League Baseball about the limitations that are put on Chase Burns. Chase Burns, who's pitched about 60 plus innings thus far this season. He was your fourth guy in the rotation to begin the season, and he's pitching like he's your ace pitcher at the moment, which is great because our ace pitcher, Hunter Green, well, he's still on the IL. He's not expected to return for at least another month, 2, maybe 3 months or so. So it's great that we have someone to fill in. Well, yesterday, Jeff Brantley, not yesterday, earlier this week, Jeff Brantley kind of talked about, hey, let's watch him now. Get your tickets to watch Chase Burns now because this may not last all season. You may have to come to an end in the upcoming months due to pitch limitation. Last year, he only went 102 innings. Probably this year expected about maybe 150 innings. And there's a possibility that at the rate that he's going 250 innings this season. And I think Jeff Brantley, he has the inside scoop more than I do, so I believe him. His words is credible. He's been around the league. There's nothing to deny it. But Terry Francona was asked these questions. So broadcaster Jeff Brantley says, you better get your tickets and watch him now because there is only so many innings that the kid is going to be able to pitch this year. I don't know how the Reds are going to manipulate that season as the season goes on. He goes on to continue to say, you just let him go. There is going to be an inning limit. We really don't know what that is at this point. I am going to say somewhere between 150 back towards 100, but he's getting there in a hurry. That's true. Well, Terry Francona on Wednesday was asked about it. He says, I don't have an answer for you right now. If we ran into an issue, in a way, that'd be good because he'd be deep into the season healthy. That would be a great sign, right? There will be a lot of opinions on this. I would certainly be open to listening to trainers and certainly DJ. I also think the guys show if they need to blow, need a blow, or if they don't. If you see pitchers losing range and motion, or if their delivery is lower, with analytics, you can really track that stuff now. That's just more important, and it's hard to pitch count or a hard innings limit is how guys are doing. Okay, so Terry Francona remains optimistic about this. He's not going to make the decision anytime soon. He's going to let Chase Burns kind of show us whether or not he should be shut down for the year. And so there's a part of me that understands the pitch limit. I don't want him to be overworked. I don't want him to be fatigued. And I definitely don't want to cause injury, especially a Tommy John surgery, because a Tommy John surgery means he's going to be out for a year and a half, if not 2 years. And that's not good enough for this organization. It's difficult because, one, we still don't have our ace pitcher back. He is still one of, if not the most reliable pitcher on our rotation now. And at this moment, as long as he's dealing his stuff, I don't even think or want to think about him being shut down for the season. Now, I'm not in the Reds locker room. I'm not in the Reds organization. I'm not Chase Burns. I'm not the staff director, the medical director. I'm not Terry Francona, or I'm not even exclusive like Jeff Brantley. So it's not my position to say. But if you ask me, a little guy out of limbo nowhere, what we should do for Chase Burns down the season, I say let Chase Burns tell us. We've listened to Brandon Williamson. We've listened to Rhett Lauder. Chase Burns has a voice. It is going to be difficult because more likely we're going to be every game is crucial. And if you had a lights out Hunter Green and a Chase Burns in that rotation, I don't care who else you have in there. I feel confident 2 out of the 5 days a week we're going to win a ball game. I really wouldn't make that decision or want to make that decision until Hunter Green actually makes his return and possibly get 2 outings. I think the important focus right now on is keeping Chase Burns healthy, happy, and content while getting Green back as soon as possible. And it's great. Green just got done throwing his outing not too long ago, but he just got back on the bump. It's going to take another month, maybe 2 months. We may not see Green back out until at least after the All-Star break or even in the beginning of August. Now, if on a collective unit, if our pitchers are thriving, then I'm not rushing to get Green back anytime soon. As long as we have our ace and Chase Burns and everyone is consistent, then take his time. But in reality, I'm not really hitting the panic button yet. Let's take a look at what's going on down in the National League. Yesterday, the Milwaukee Brewers beat the St. Louis Cardinals 2-1 was the final score. The Chicago Cubs snapped their 10-game losing streak, beating the Pirates 10-4 was the final score. Today, the only game coming out of the NL Central is the Chicago Cubs and the Pittsburgh Pirates as they wrap up a 4-game series. Philadelphia Phillies came into Petco Park, dominated the Padres, and yesterday, Christopher Sanchez breaks Phillies' 115-year-old scoreless inning streak record. He surpasses Hall of Famer Grover Alexander for the longest scoreless inning streak by any Phillies pitcher since 1893. Sanchez is currently on a 44 2/3 of an inning consecutive inning of a scoreless streak, as Alexander recorded in his rookie year 41 scoreless innings back in 1911. History's all over left and right. An NBA playoff, the San Antonio Spurs host the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight at 8:30 on NBC. The Thunder lead the series 3-2. They win. The winner of this series will go on to face the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. In the NHL, Hurricanes shut out the Canadiens 4-0. They lead the series 3-1. Their next game will be on Friday. That is your NHL NBA playoff update. All right. Well, things are going to be moving fast. Also, maybe in a perspective of being slow over the next 60 days, less so to speak, because NFL, how do I want to best put this? NFL season's coming to terms here. If you think about it, we're about to shut each other down in a couple of weeks from camp. And coming in July, after 4th of July, probably the middle of July, I don't have dates yet, the NFL will have preseason, followed by the Hall of Fame game, followed by preseason games before the regular season. So football is right around the corner. And I'm excited. Last year, the Seattle Seahawks defeated the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. They head into this season looking to be defending champions. Do they honestly have what it takes to go back to the Super Bowl? They weren't even the dangerous team in the NFC last year. And I think credited some, I even believed that the Philadelphia Eagles was probably the dangerous team prominent to go back to the Super Bowl. But Seattle found their way, given a lot of credit. They overcome the 49ers. They overcome the Rams. They overcome the Eagles, and they go overcome the New England Patriots. Two teams that, if you asked me a year ago today, I'd say no way you'd find them in the Super Bowl, but they showed off a lot. Heading into this year, the question is this a start of something more? And then can they show dominance in their division, in their league, to get back to the Super Bowl? Or do we see two new teams in this year's Super Bowl? It really just depends. So let's ask you, do you think the Seattle Seahawks will get back to the Super Bowl this year? Maybe if you're a Seahawks fan's biased opinion, yes, absolutely. They're Super Bowl contenders. There's no one better than them. Credited. Or any other team in that division, you're saying, no way, that was a fluke. I think if you're the Packers, maybe the Lions, you're saying that a lot of the things were a fluke last year. Talk about the Eagles saying that we should have been there. We weren't. So maybe less than a third of the NFL says that the Seahawks could get back to the Super Bowl. So if the Seahawks don't go back to the Super Bowl, they get dethroned. Who does go to the Super Bowl? Who can win the Super Bowl this year? What about the Kansas City Chiefs? I think it took a lot of people by surprise with how they got out to an early season. Maybe they underestimated themselves. Uh, I'm not ready to declare Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes dead just yet. I'm not ready to announce that the ending of a dynasty with the Kansas City Chiefs. But if there's going to be new life, it has to show this season. I felt one thing led to another last year, which led ultimately to Patrick Mahomes' health was a big question. So I do think that Kansas City is still a top tier dangerous threat to any AFC teams this season. But Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, this is, if they don't make it to the playoffs this year, then I think that's ready. It's like, until you beat me, I can't prove that. And they've been so dominant in the years past that you almost have to tell me, do it 2 to 3 times, and then I will believe you. We said the same thing about Tom Brady. Everyone's quick to assume and to analyze that the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and these Chiefs are done. Their dynasty was a once been. It's time to move on. Andy Reid should retire as a head coach. Patrick Mahomes right off into the sunset, or else you're going to tarnish your season. This is the year that either you put up or you say it's time to move on. And I think but I still think that they still have something to hold on to. Therefore, I think that they're still a team in the playoffs fighting for a Super Bowl chance this season. Detroit Lions. I don't know what happened. They got out to a 5-2 start. Things then collapsed down. I favored the Lions this past season, and I don't know. Like, if you ask me, the way I was approaching last season was the Lions coming up, maintaining, the Bears still down at the bottom, the Vikings somewhere in the middle, and the Packers somewhere in the middle. And yet we saw the rise of the Bears made me question what the Lions could do. Now, listen, the Lions are a tough team. They're a grinding team. They're not going to roll over backwards. So was last year a fluke? I guess we'll see. Denver Broncos. Team who I really thought they made some big improvements. Some big steps. I expect the Broncos. I expect Bo Nix. Look, he got hurt. He had a season-ending injury, ankle surgery. I feel like he's back. He's ready to go. I feel like this is a very top, like, for the longest time, the Chargers were in the conversation of giving the Chiefs a run for their money in competition of the West. And last year, Bo Nix stepped in. He learned a lot. He showed that he learned a lot. He adapted a lot. I don't think it's easy to play in Denver for a whole season to find success. The only player that I remember that had so much success in Denver has to be Peyton Manning, and that's after so many, Hall of Fame career in Indianapolis. So Bo Nix, I expect him to be right up on there as well. I'd also like to throw out the Philadelphia Eagles, who were originally the defending champions. I think that they had a lot of off-field drama last year, and I feel like that kind of got in the way of their performance on the field, primarily in A.J. Brown. Now, they're saying that A.J. Brown is on his way out. That's a whole nother conversation. I think A.J. Brown is a good receiver. I think he wants to be in the spotlight. Reminds me a lot of like an Odell Beckham or a Saquon Barkley attention span, and from what I've seen so far. So pardon me if that's not accurate, but I feel like you kind of clean up a little bit, and then you can focus on, you dial back in to what Eagles are trying to do. But I like the Eagles. I feel like in the NFC, the Eagles are one of the top teams if you're ranking them, in my opinion. Buffalo Bills, they got a lot to play for. I mean, we're always asking ourselves about when is Josh Allen's going to get his turn. I feel like he's had a lot of opportunities. They've all came and slipped through his hands, whether it's injuries, whether it's not having the right personnel. There's a lot of, I'm going to say, excuses, but that window is narrow. That window is about to bypass in this conversation of being Super Bowl contenders. And this is, I really hate, I really wish Josh Allen will get his spotlight, because I would hate to have him. He reminds me a lot of a Phillip Rivers. Dedication to the team, dedication to his craft, always working hard, seems to get close, but never seems to get over that hump. The Baltimore Ravens, I think, has one of the most arguing cases, respectfully. You move on from John Harbaugh. You pick up, a new coach and Jesse Mentor, and you got Lamar Jackson. You're cutting the BS out. You're cutting, you're not. It's either you're kind of telling, hey, we're going to do this. I think right now they are controllably favored in the AFC North as of today. Does that change ahead of the season? Probably, but you expect a lot more out of Baltimore this year, especially if it doesn't happen. So Pittsburgh getting Mike McCarthy, bringing back Aaron Rodgers, you're kind of still tearing in this new direction format for the Steelers. So if they have success, it's all great. They're keeping the hopes alive. But if they don't, then they are you kind of know the direction that they're kind of heading in. For Baltimore, they're making changes because they are winning, to get them over that hump, to get them over that win power and back to the Super Bowl. You have a good squad, you have a good offense. And this is kind of more of that perspective of, all right, let's get out there, right? You picked up free agent Trey Hendrickson, and from day one the narrative is winning. And then the Los Angeles Rams, they just signed quarterback Ty Simpson, who I think it's been a big help. Look, remember the trade that the Rams did for Matthew Stafford? They put all their chips into the pot, saying, here, I'm going to bet on the next 5 years. Matthew Stafford's going to take us to the promised land. They're going to lead this division. They have held their own. A lot of people thought that the Rams are going to be a one and done deal. Now, they haven't been back to the Super Bowl since that whole transactions. But they've been contenders. They've been in the playoffs. They've held their own quite nicely. So, ultimate statement, who's your top threat in the NFC? We'll start off with the NFC as contenders for this year's Super Bowl. Coming in at number one is the Philadelphia Eagles. Number two is the Los Angeles Rams. Number three, I have to argue the Green Bay Packers. Number four is the Seattle Seahawks. And number five is the Detroit Lions. In my five top teams that I think are going to contend for a NFC championship win and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, it would be the Eagles, the Rams, the Packers, the Seahawks, and then we have the Lions. Over in the AFC, the top team that I have to put back up, but going to the Super Bowl and possibly winning it, has to be the Denver Broncos. Then there is, from the Denver Broncos, the Baltimore Ravens, From the Ravens, I would argue the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the New England Patriots. Now, I'm not steering away from the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm trying to provide an unbiased opinion of who I really think has a legitimate case. And this is a combination of what they've done in the offseason, who they currently have, and what their performance was last year. I feel like if you put the Broncos back into a scenario they were last year, but the narrative changed where Bo Nix remains healthy, then they would have beaten the Patriots in the AFC championships. Therefore, they go. I want to see the Patriots should be higher in this list, but I don't know. I mean, something that's like this is going to take a couple years to prove me wrong. I want to be proved wrong. So, Patriots, you have that golden ticket to let me eat crow in this, and say you're back at it. But the Chiefs, same thing, right? Prove me wrong. I'm trying to stay hopeful for you. You're saying I'm wrong. Here's the ultimate to the test. I think what helps influence the Bills this year is the new stadium. I know it's the same name, but different venue substantially. And then, we have the Ravens. Now, does the Bengals fit on this list? Yeah, it's very hard not to put them on this list. It's very hard not to put the Bears on the NFC list or the 49ers. But, based off of what I saw last year, I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe a playoff run. I don't know about a championship. I don't know. What do you guys think? Who could be dethroning the Super Bowl defending champions in this year's Super Bowl? Or does the Seahawks retain and go back to the Super Bowl? Heading into this season is going to create a lot of great narratives, especially at the quarterback battles this year. I like the quarterback battles this year. I'm actually going to give you a couple of the favorite ones that I really am intrigued in watching. And weird enough to say, I am pointing out the Arizona's Cardinals three-way quarterback battle for this season. Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Carson Beck. Brissett will theoretically have the inside track right now after starting 12 games in Arizona last season, but he only went 1-11. In those games, he's been and has been absent from the Cardinals' offseason program. So, how much do you give him part into that? Minshew signed with the Cardinals back in March. He's projected to be a backup, which Brissett and Minshew's been a starting quarterback for organizations and been backups. But also, Carson Beck was drafted by Arizona, 65th overall. So the battle is, I think, is more predictable who's going to start the season. It's either going to be Brissett, Minshew. But I think the hindsight is this is a temporary solution. And you kind of divide these quarterbacks into thirds and work back in at some point this year. What I do like about this battle, though, is that you shouldn't have to feel rushed to put in a drafted quarterback. You'll have a chance to see what he's able to do a little bit during preseason. Let him kind of be a backup quarterback for the first handful of games. Maybe throw him in when the team's down by 3-4 touchdowns late in the game and get some exposure. But really fine-tune his craft to Cardinals football and let him shape and develop as he goes in. At least that's what I would like to see, to be honest. The Cleveland Browns, I think, have a compelling battle at the quarterback position between the returning Deshaun Watson and Shador Sanders. Last year, I supported Shador Sanders, and I was excited when he finally got his opportunity towards the end of the season. But how do you not have a three-time Pro Bowler who just played 19 games over the last 4 seasons, though, not dealing with suspensions and multiple injuries? You got Dylan Gabriel, you got Sanders, drafted in the fifth round of the 2025 draft. Gabriel has earned a starting role before Sanders last season, but later won more games. To even complicate the matters, Brown selected Arkansas Taylon Green as a freakish athlete dual threat quarterback in the sixth round of this year's draft. So you got a couple of decisions to go with. I think you'd ask yourself, who is your primary quarterback? And it really just depends how Deshaun Watson, from basically being absent for 3 of the last 4 years, comes back and handles this new, young, defined offense. Now, is that the decision you go down, is taking this veteran quarterback to help talent, with a young talent offense? Or do you go with a younger quarterback to even out and to build that chemistry? Dylan Gabriel, Sanders, two quarterbacks that are younger, haven't seen their prime yet, and how will how will all of them reflect with the quarterback position? Taylon Green, multi-athlete, dual threat, not only a quarterback, maybe he could run, agility. He could be used in multiple different ways. I have to predict Watson will start. I think Sanders gets a good look this year. If Cleveland doesn't turn things around right away, Green could be utilized also in 2026. You got Michael Penix and Tua Tagovailoa. I think this would be a protective spot for Tua. Take a step back, not have so much pressure on you. Michael Penix also needs to be shaped and can use a mentor as well. I like the combination. I think that Tua could get his start, less pressure, a little bit more at ease, division, easy, something that you could kind of balance yourself in. But Penix does take over at some point unless Tua can have a revival season. Then I have the Minnesota Vikings, probably, if not one of my favorites, and I know my next one is my favorite, so this is why it's up high there. You got Kyle Murray and JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy didn't have a good outing last year. He logged 6 for 10 and 10 starts in 2025. He missed the 24 season due to injuries. However, he dealt with injuries again in 25 and downright awful statistically, only a 57% completion rating. Well, Murray has been lost over there in Arizona. And if you have, and I feel like you're missing a couple pieces for the support of for Kyle Murray. I liked Kyle Murray when he got drafted. It's one of those situations where I dreaded Kyle Murray on the team he got drafted to. He has this breakout year in his rookie year because no one picks up on what he's capable of doing. It's been a trend when quarterbacks were versatile. Okay, it's been given. I mean, you've seen Colin Kaepernick, you've seen Joe Burrow, you've seen Lamar Jackson, you've seen Russell Wilson, all these young quarterbacks that can move out of the pocket, that has the speed, that can run down the field and throw the ball, has the ability to shake up because no one expects it. Some quarterbacks ease back into just being a quarterback in the pocket. The other quarterbacks still use their advantage. But at some point, NFL teams capture on and they adjust to it. I don't feel like Murray had a fair chance in Arizona, and therefore I feel like that's what sabotaged his career. Does he get that revivance? I think the Vikings are looking to at least see and give him his fair opportunity. I think Murray steps in. I think with this new image, he keeps the job and wins plus 10 games. JJ McCarthy takes a step back, becomes a backup quarterback, at least works at his craft. He uses a down year where he could be healthy and stay healthy. And then from there, the rest is history. So here's the big question and the big team, the Las Vegas Raiders. Been all over news, the number one draft, Fernando Mendoza, all that fun stuff. But you also got Kirk Cousins. Now, there's no doubt that the idea is for Mendoza to be the prize pupil for the future of the Raiders organization. I do not like throwing quarterbacks out into the fire. Sink or swim. I hate that. So if you ask me, I will start. I think the share responsibility goes back and forth with Mendoza and Cousins. I think the intention is to start Mendoza. I think it's been hell bent and set that Mendoza is the guy for the Raiders. You're going to learn very quickly. And Kirk Cousins, not a bad backup option. I don't think Mendoza does any bad, and he's not a bad quarterback. I don't think he'll be something, he wouldn't be a bad option. But the highlights and the focus is on Kirk Cousins. Now, here's the unfair advantage here. We don't know Mendoza at the NFL level. He's in the AFC West, which I argue that if it's not the AFC North, tough division of the AFC, it would be the West. He's going up against guys like Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, who just had a breakout year last year. Patrick Mahomes looks to bounce back. I mean, he's going to have to see some of the best twice this season. He's going to learn a lot. Now, is that confidence? Is his skill level ready to compete and contend against those guys? I guess we will see, right? I mean, I'm not opposing it isn't, but it's all part of the game, right? All right, that is all the time I have for you guys today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We will be back tomorrow as we get you guys ready for the weekend series of the Braves and Reds. We'll take a look at the NL Central and give you an NBA play and an NHL playoff update heading into the weekend. We'll get you guys ready for Friday Night SmackDown and this Sunday's match prediction, that clash in Italy. Also, we'll take a look at the NCAA bracket for college baseball as the Cincinnati Bearcats look to make their begin their gameplay tomorrow afternoon. You can also follow us on our Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram page, keeping you up to date with all your sports news stories and information. You can also download us to take you on the road wherever you get your podcasting needs at the TNC Sports Talk. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, and more. We'll be back tomorrow from noon to 1. Thank you guys for tuning in to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Until tomorrow, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.